Alright everybody, the cost of living in Florida has got so ridiculous that people just can't take it anymore, and they're going to social media showing their tax bills, their electric bills, and of course the uprise in cost of insurance with angry comments. Even a few famous people have hit social media to explain their frustration about what cost of living in Florida is looking like these days. Fort Myers artist named Plies goes on social media very angry and explains how he's currently paying $1,200 a month for his electrical bill. The video does not specify a particular county in Florida, but it's believed he lives somewhere in the Tampa metropolitan area. The solution from the co-op is buy a smaller home. He tells them to cut the power off, he's going to be sleeping in his car, and goes on social media in a very angry rant about how expensive his electrical bill has become. And you may wonder, why is the electric bill in Tampa going up lately? AMLO, the president of Mexico, told Pemex that they will no longer be sending any fossil fuels or oil products to the state of Florida because if they don't want Mexicans, they must not want Mexican oil. And while the entire state of Florida doesn't depend on Mexican oil, a few counties on the Gulf Coast absolutely depend on it. And you can expect a few places in Florida not only to have dramatic price increases, but maybe even power outages. I haven't been able to find footage of AMLO himself saying these words. He did make a video saying that Latinos in Florida should really abstain from supporting their current government, and that he would do anything in his power to preserve the dignity of Mexican migrants that work in the state of Florida. However, despite the fact that AMLO makes a lot of very lengthy press conferences, I haven't found the actual footage yet. Regardless, people are already taking to social media to vent their frustration about how much their bills have gone up in the Tampa area. And Florida is the only state on the Gulf Coast that does not have a strong oil industry. And now, with Pemex discovering huge amounts of oil in the Tabasco region of southern Mexico, which in over 40 years they haven't been able to exploit this area, the only clear buyer for that oil would be the state of Florida, as all the other states along the Mississippi coast are pretty much covered with their own supply. Property taxes have also been increasing. I recently visited my family in Broward County, Florida, and they said that their tax bill went up dramatically. While property taxes are increasing in Collier County, Florida, for some unknown reason, this particular property in the Naples area actually paid less in property taxes last year than they did in 2010. Some of the poor areas in Collier County have seen in the same time period their taxes double, triple, and in some cases even quadrupled. But here's a mansion on the beach, and their property taxes are actually less now than in 2010. So as property taxes for the poor are even doubling or tripling, for some rich people on the beach, it's actually going down. However, this particular property on the beach saw their property taxes go from about $300,000 a year to nearly over $700,000 as of lately. You would think with properties overlooking the Naples Pier paying over $700,000 a year in property taxes that the Naples Pier construction and rebuilding after Hurricane Ian would be underway. Yet here we are, almost a year later, and the city of Naples Pier remains exactly like it did the day after the hurricane. And you may ask yourself, $700,000 in property taxes, that comes out to roughly about $2,000 a day. What is the city of Naples doing on this property every single day that amounts to nearly $2,000? I guess only they would know the answer for that. If I was paying $700,000 in property taxes, I would need my own toilet paper butler. But that's again the city of Naples, and we don't know if they have a contract for security on this property. We don't know what's going on there. But regardless, as the rich people on the beach are sometimes paying a whole lot of money for their property taxes, some of them are actually paying less. And that's a little disturbing to the people who are in poor communities, watching their property taxes multiply year after year. Insurance companies have also been leaving the state of Florida Farmers Insurance, one of the most recent companies to withdraw from the state of Florida, leaves over 100,000 people without coverage. The poor communities in Florida are actually paying more for auto insurance than the rich. Take having a 2,500 pickup truck on Fort Myers Beach, where a 14-foot storm surge destroyed every single vehicle left on the island. Even months after the hurricane, they're still finding entire vehicles in Estero Bay or in the middle of the ocean. The same exact vehicle cost almost 3 times more to insure in an upland area of Lehigh Acres because, according to the insurance companies, these poor areas are more prone to have auto insurance fraud. While they don't really provide any analytics or statistics to show exactly why these poor areas like Lehigh Acres are paying so much in car insurance, I found that when I left Lehigh Acres, my car insurance went from over $500 a month to less than $300, which means if you move into a zip code of poverty or regular working class people in Florida, chances are the rich people on the water are paying less than half the same insurance you are, even though they are actually at larger risk. There's a new law in the state of Florida that a lot of people are not talking about. SB 360 shortens how long you have as a new home buyer to sue the builder if the construction quality is not effective, a law that clearly protects the interests of large developers, and it puts the liability of an ineffective structure on you, the person buying it, preventing you from being able to sue them for a crappy job. Well, this also helps developers is the fact that SB 1718, Florida's new immigration law, allows for a $1,000 fine for every single day that an employer does not have E-Verify, which means that large developers will be able to afford that fine. Let's say you have a large construction site and you have 500 people working who are illegal. That comes out to about $2 a day per worker. Something insignificant for a large developer, but it's definitely enough to destroy a small construction company. So we can see that by these new laws, the state of Florida is taking sides with developers and protecting their interests rather than the people. The people of Florida are angry because it's not just on one front. It's when you buy the house. It's when you sell the house. It's your property taxes. It's the electricity coming into the house. It's your auto insurance. It's your home insurance. Every single category of living in Florida has exponentially become more expensive. All these things happening at once, and we all know that while the people of Florida are being robbed and while our homes are being lost because we can't afford to keep them anymore, the insurance companies, the builders, the developers, all those people just keep getting richer every single time. The people of Florida are literally being robbed. The insurance companies in the state have a monopoly, and they're working with the government to ensure that they can steal every dollar they can from you, the resident of Florida, making a lot of Floridians wonder, am I going to have to leave the state of Florida? Because if you're on a fixed income and insurance is going up, property taxes are going up, eventually you're not going to be able to afford your home. I recently talked to an elderly person in Brevard County, Florida, and they told me that they're looking to sell their home because what their homeowner's insurance went up and their property taxes went up will be equivalent to 1/3 of their entire income. I just got off the phone with a friend that lives in Naples, Florida. He said his auto insurance just went up $30 a month, and his property was uninsured for a time period because he couldn't find an insurance company that wanted to take the property, and in that time period he racked up $40,000 of insurance because the bank itself found the insurance company since the property wasn't insured for a period. Well, that racked up $40,000. What most people don't know is that the bank doesn't tell you about that until you're trying to pay off the property or your mortgage comes to an end, and then the bank demands that money from you on the spot. The possibilities of how somebody elderly or disabled could end up losing their property in Florida are mounting up in so many different ways that we really wouldn't have time to elaborate on this video. But a huge part of it is that people aren't able to find an insurance company to take their home. In the meantime, the bank that has the mortgage insures it with the company they wish, and the prices are so unreasonable and astronomical that many times it can put the homeowner, quite literally, upside down on the property. If you've been watching my channel over the last few years, I've been telling people to move to Florida to do what? Not buy a property, but instead they should rent for a while. If you've listened to my advice, you may be kind of not worried about it, because if you're renting a property, you may be able to simply move somewhere else when your lease expires if you don't like the new terms they're offering you. However, if you bought a home that now becomes uninsurable, unattractive to people who are financing it because banks won't give you a loan for it because of the insurance situation, now you are stuck with a property that you need to dump and nobody's gonna want it. And this is all happening at the same time to tens of thousands of people in Florida who are finding out that with these new changes, they're going to have to let go of their homes in the near future. A lot of these people were retiring in Florida affordably, a concept that I have been warning people about for years. Others, however, have been in Florida for decades, and this is really their home state now, and it's very unfair to them to have to leave their homes and properties behind because the states become so expensive they can no longer afford it on their retirement income. Therefore, if you don't have a brand new property and in 7 years that property will be completely your liability, and in 10 years replacing a new roof will be an obligation, when you start to mount up the cost of what it's starting to be like to own property in Florida, you'll find out that the insurance companies are making more profit than the realtors and builders themselves. Eventually, all of these older communities in Florida are simply in the way of progress, and their ultimate goal is to knock down these older homes, knock down these mobile home parks, so that they can use this land to build homes and properties. And the only way that they are able to displace these people that own their homes is by jacking up the insurance rates, by not having any investment into the economy to make sure that the poor people are outpriced. A concept that I started to talk about on this channel when I started it back in 2019. Remember, I made a video talking about how even though I owned my home outright, I was still being outpriced from the area. So despite the fact that you own a home outright, that doesn't exactly mean that they're not able to outprice you by one, jacking up the cost of literally everything, and two, ensuring that there's no source of income for you to be able to survive on, which means you're going to be forced to sell the property. And that, my dear, is where a lot of Floridians are today, being outpriced of a place they thought they owned. And what are these Floridians considering now that they're leaving their homes in Florida, moving to other states? As you guys know, I left the state of Florida and moved to Alabama for all these reasons we're highlighting today. When I moved to Alabama, my car insurance went down, my home insurance was insignificant, and jobs and income to supply my family with the things we needed were plentiful. However, we were ran out of Alabama because of regionalism and racism, because they do not want you to live there. And a lot of Floridians, even American-born citizens, when they move to Alabama or some of these poor rural states, they're finding out that the people are hostile, unfriendly, and just bitter people. And they really hate and resent the fact that you're from sunny Florida. And we're not talking about personal dislike. We're talking about dealing with law enforcement, dealing with the county, and of course, violence, threats, and intimidation. So if you're a Floridian and you're considering moving to a state that's more affordable, I was making more money in Alabama. My house was bigger. I had an acre of land with mountains, creeks, and big trees. I was making more money than I ever made. And somehow, despite how comfortable we were economically, we had to run, literally flee back to Florida, and now we're stuck here paying excessive rents. And despite the fact it's difficult to maintain this Florida lifestyle after living in Alabama, we know that that isn't the life for us. So despite how difficult this transition back into Florida has been for us, we've tried to find ways to make it work. But even making close to $100,000 a year, we're still tight on money. After paying our rent, car insurance, car payment, we're left having to come up with $4,000 to $5,000 a month just for the basics. If tomorrow the ad rates were to drop because of an economical instability, I know for a fact we wouldn't be able to make it. Living in Florida for the last 2 years has completely drained all of our active income and savings, leaving us with practically no net worth. Yet at least when I go to sleep at night in Florida, I'm not in fear for my life. I don't have threats that people are going to burn my house. Really, the transition from living in Florida, a carefree place with people who are retiring, moving to one of these backwards places like Alabama is kind of a nightmare for a lot of Floridians. And while economically it benefits them, deep down inside, they know that's not what they want to do with themselves. In Alabama, I had a paid off 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on an acre with a brand new roof, brand new appliances. We walked away from a paid off house in Alabama that was paying $500 in property taxes to be homeless in our car in Florida. At least homeless in our car in Florida, we had peace of mind that we were in Florida surrounded by decent people and not in Alabama by hate groups, violent street gangs, and corrupt government officials. In Alabama, when we reported that we had been robbed at our home, the law enforcement quite literally told us that we weren't from there and that the services of Alabama were for the people of Alabama, and that I'm a dang Mex and my wife is a dang Yank, and neither one of us have rights in the state of Alabama. Basically, the local people there wanted to make sure that we left by intimidating us, putting our lives in danger all the time, and we got sick and tired of dealing with it. So if you're leaving the state of Florida for one of these more affordable states, let me tell you, the grass is not greener on the other side, and what awaits you there could quite literally be the nightmare of a lifetime. A nightmare that a lot of Floridians who've resettled in the Deep South right now are emailing me every single day and telling me about the hardships they're facing. I've even had people message me saying, Jose, it's not even about the fact that you're Hispanic. I'm an American-born citizen. I'm from the United States, and I'm dealing with the same problems. Recently, a YouTuber moved to Otter Creek, Florida, a small little affordable town way north of Tampa. And if you watch their YouTube channel, you can see all the nightmares they're going through in this small little country town. So moving to one of these small affordable places for a lot of us might seem like the solution. But if you're accustomed to living in Florida, you're not going to feel comfortable in these places. And quite literally, you may be more comfortable being homeless or transient in Florida than you will having a home paid off in one of these miserable states in the Deep South. That's today's video. A lot of Floridians are really asking themselves, where do I go to next? A question that I faced a few years ago, and I made the decision to move to Alabama. Now I live in Sarasota, which is a very expensive place to live in Florida. But now I understand why I'm paying more money. Maybe safety, access to beaches. Unfortunately though, while I'm young and I have the energy to make these things happen, I don't know what our elderly in Florida are going to do as they keep being driven out. Vacation rentals were a huge part of what was driving real estate prices up in Florida, but property taxes is what ate up most of the income. And now with property taxes increasing and people not doing these expensive vacation rentals, it's questionable how long these property values are going to hold up in the state of Florida, and how many people who bought these expensive properties with the idea of making them vacation rentals are gonna fail. Another stupid idea. Clearly, the city of Naples has the right idea in dramatically jacking up their coastal real estate property taxes to ensure that Naples doesn't get ruined. These vacation rental properties have done nothing but raise the crime rates, violence, and all types of problems for places like Naples Park, Fort Myers Beach, and I think the city of Naples has done a good job in ensuring that they outprice the people who are out trying to outprice them. I know to you and me, $700,000 may sound like an outrageous amount of money just for property taxes. But I can guarantee you that the people that own these properties, it's like me and you eating a hamburger. And clearly, the crunch that we're feeling in Florida is the working class people like me and the retired people. The rich people doesn't even affect them.